This is sort of a an echo chamber, um, and actually it's two things that are positive news that just came to me. So when things like this happen, I put it up here. Okay, for the very reasons that I actually got the video that just popped up on my screen. These things do not happen out of coincidence. They're not random events. They are events, and here's an example. Okay, I subscribe to an enormous amount of different channels because these are people that I've learned over the course of time are very highly aware beings around the world. Okay, shamans, if you will, people who come out of the military intelligence sector, those who come out of the political sector, those who come out of the intelligence sector, those who come out of the spiritual community, those who are admitted, if you will, off planet ETs that are here. Um, in other words, sort of a much larger cross section of the community that are very aware of exactly what's happening to planet Earth right now, which is the liberation of this planet, which is the most exciting time to be experiencing being on planet Earth right now, particularly when you know its history. And what prompted me to do this was really two things. One thing that I sort of forgot to mention, which is sort of what happens when all of a sudden I'm thinking about one thing that's related to something I'm going to say, and then naturally it's connected to other pieces of data that are connected to other pieces of data, which are connected to other pieces of data, which, because you're aware that there's so much data or things that represent information that is in the field that we experience that is all connected to each other, right? Between past, present, and future events, because they all exist within the field of infinite possibilities. And that was two things. One, that I had mentioned to about how the artificial intelligence has access to us, right? Our biochip, which is the biotechnology, which means our cells, all of our functional stuff. Okay, um, and so one of the aside what I knew as a child and what I've known throughout the course of my life by getting thought form algorithms, whenever my spin of my Merkaba is not, which means I'm experiencing 700 800 megahertz of energy, right? Because you sort of know how to fight these wars, which really is a war between lower consciousness, higher consciousness, lower frequency, higher frequency, and all that. But one of the things that I've mentioned before, and those that have come out of, particularly whistleblowers that have come out of what are known as MyLabs, which are a guy by the name of Og Tellys. If you've never had a chance to see some of his stuff on Facebook, I suggest he's another source of a wealth of information. He did a 9 hour audio podcast with Patty Broussard, Karen Ann Luke McDonald, which is on YouTube. Even though it's just an audio podcast, it is on YouTube, and it's called The Galactic History of Earth. And Og Tellys worked with the deep state and worked down underneath in subterranean base in what was known as a MyLab, which is where a lot of the hybrid programs take place, breeding programs, a lot of the demonic communication technology, the way that artificial works. He has an enormous amount of knowledge about how all this works, okay? And one of the things that happened when he was having a conversation with Patty Broussard was when he mentioned there are things that I know that I don't want to talk about because if I release the information, certain things will happen to me. And this gets into when Donald Rumsfeld talked about known unknowns. And I knew this, if you will, as a child, which means there are things that I know that I don't want to know because I don't want to know them in my consciousness, because if I do, I'll either get picked up and killed, kidnapped, or it will release information that I'm not supposed to know at this particular moment in time on my timeline. I'm not supposed to know that information until I've released it to myself. Okay, so I think I've mentioned how that works. When you wrote your own timeline to come in here to experience everything that you can come in here, when you know that you've secured a timeline, which is how you already know as a child that you already won this, it means that you've already been on the other side of it. That's how you know your timeline. Okay, because I can go back and look at it. So that means you can jump back from the future back to the past. So that's what I did. Okay. So that's why I knew certain things that I knew when I was a child. And then throughout the course of my life, I realized that I don't want to know those things yet, which means you really do know them, but you're not supposed to know them until the future has happened. Because if you start releasing that information now to yourself, then they're going to know the future event that happened and they can counter that. And you don't want that to happen. Because these are timeline wars. Okay? That's why Patty was the one to secure Timeline Zero, which is why when Patty secured it, okay, which was in 2017, it's like I already knew that in the future, which means I already knew that when I was 5 years old. Okay? That's how I knew what I knew when I talk about I already knew this when I was a child. That's the advantage of being outside time, okay? So having said that, that's why there were on occasions that I was saying things, like when I was at Reno, for example, and I remember when I was releasing information and putting it up on my Facebook page, the artificial intelligence was aware of the information that I was getting ready to release, and it hit me with an enormous amount of physical pain because it knew where that pain could be triggered that was in memory from a previous injury. So what it did is it reactivated a previous memory of a previous injury that caused me an enormous amount of pain, and it was trying to distract me with so much pain that I wouldn't continue writing what I put up on my Facebook page, which was information that I was revealing to others, because now it's being released on the timeline in a consciousness way. Okay? So there were on a number of occasions over 2018, 2019, and 2020 when I was getting hit a lot because of information I was releasing to myself because I wanted to get it out quicker. Accelerate the timeline. What essentially it means is accelerate the advance of the events or the information that is now, because when you release information into the morphogenetic field structure, it means that everybody that is connected in consciousness has the potential to experience the same information I'm aware of. That means that when another individual becomes aware of it, another individual becomes aware of it. That allows more people to awake and go, oh, I get it. I realize what's happening. I'm waking up. I'm no longer being held captive by an AI. Okay? When the AI realizes that, it doesn't want to allow what's called the cascade effect. Okay? Or some people call it a 100th monkey effect. All of a sudden 100,000 monkeys wake up at once because they're all connected in consciousness. Sort of like the way that the herd mentality, well, the whole herd just woke up. See, so when the AI realizes there's an individual like me, that because you already know the future events that are going to occur, if I release information that's not supposed to be released until it's safe to do so, then the AI will hit me. And it hit me on a number of occasions as a way to say, I'm going to hurt you for releasing information that I wasn't supposed to release. Not that it was trying to tell me, hey, you're not supposed to release this information yet, you bad guys, so you're going to suffer a consequence for doing that, like it's on my side. It's not on my side. It doesn't want the information to go out at the time in which I'm releasing it, which tied directly into what Patty and Og Tellez knew, okay, about the nature of how this war is fought against a wargaming parasitic artificial intelligence programmer. The good news in that is that I've been releasing information over the last 6 to 8 months, and I'm not being attacked as much as I was once before. That was sort of an indication to me that the AI is running out of power, which means it's not feeding on as many units of consciousness that in which it's getting plasma. That's a good sign. So I thought it was important to talk about that. Okay, and that was sort of ironic because that's precisely what Yellow Rose of Texas said in her video that she became aware of. Okay, so this obviously is just one more indicative piece of information about all the light, the ships that came in here, and everything that's being done to liberate this planet, take down all their stuff, dismantle all their toys, and essentially liberate the consciousness of humanity to be able to experience the higher frequency stuff. Now, the second part of this was like myself showing myself. Simon Parkes, for those that don't know who Simon Parkes is, Simon Parkes came from a family that, as I remember it, were a cross between an insectoid race, which are known as mantids, and another race, and I can't remember who they are, but off planet. And his parent, he knew this apparently when he was young, and he was one of the early whistleblowers that was part of Miles Johnston's Basis Project, which, in my opinion, as a journalist, probably did more to help wake more people up on the planet than any single person I know, which is Basis Project. And he was one of the early whistleblowers that came out that shared a lot of the off-planet stuff, the on-planet ET stuff that was occurring here. And Simon Parkes, as I remember it, is sort of politically involved in the UK, in Britain, England. He's English. And I've long subscribed to his channel, right? Well, I get channels that pop up in front of me, from different beings, channels, but they're not random. I'm supposed to see them at the time that I'm supposed to see them. Now, I haven't seen one of the YouTube titles that's recent that has come up on my YouTube timeline, right? From Simon Parkes in a long time, even though I've subscribed to him like I do a number of different channels. But it's not a coincidence that all of a sudden, here's Simon Parkes. Oh, whoa, Simon Parkes, November 5th, number 7. Now, it's not like Simon Parkes has not done other videos like November 1st, October 15th, October 7th, September 25th, September 15th. I just haven't seen any of those. They haven't come up on my screen, yet these two did. Get the picture? And that's because I'm supposed to watch those. And so the reason that I'm supposed to watch one of them is one of the things that he was suggesting that's going to take place tomorrow. And that is, given what happened with the mass media and the bad guys saying, oh, Biden step up and I won, and the mass media is calling the victory. And he talked about how for a number of people, I can't give you a number, but he mentioned that one of the things that naturally the love and light community would be concerned with is those that were, their heart was intent on knowing Trump is a good guy, he's fighting for us. And so one of the things that can happen is that when your state of vibration, the spinning of Merkaba is way up there, you realize the light is going to win. Your light is up and you're feeling like you're in a 5D state of consciousness. And then all of a sudden you drop down to 3D, being held captive by vampires or parasites, if you will, the rulers, the predators, see? So what happens is that now all of a sudden, and this is exactly why they do that, okay? Because it's not like they don't know that there were more and more units of consciousness that were ascending to 5D to let go of a lot of the 3D experiences. They're letting go of the trauma, they're letting go of the pain, they're letting go of those lower density consciousness experiences where they're more up in a 5D. We're helping to shift them, help get them up. And then all of a sudden, the dart pulls the stunt that they did, and all of a sudden there's a drop down, okay? So Simon Parkes announced a little while ago on his YouTube video, that come tomorrow on UK time, he said it doesn't matter what time of day, go into your heart and try and get your speed up, get your consciousness up, and be in a state of calm, okay? Be in a state of peace, be in a state of calm, and do that for as long as you can, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever. And that will help soften and raise the energy up, raise the consciousness up for those that are connected in consciousness stuff. So we hold them to a higher resonant state of consciousness. That is important, particularly now over the weekend, particularly on Sunday. Because when Monday comes around, this is when, hey, what's going to happen next? I would imagine that people are probably going to be a little more tense. What is the Trump administration going to do? Is anything going to happen in the courts? You don't want to be back down in the lower density consciousness that was holding us captive, which were the demons. You don't want to be there. You want to keep it up high, the light oneness. And remember, everything's going to be okay. So tomorrow he called for going into your heart, have a meditation. So there's going to be a lot of light workers and light warriors that are out there tomorrow that are going to be doing this so we can maintain the higher timeline. Okay, the 5D consciousness timeline. So I'm simply doing this to help suggest to those that are out there that everything's going to be okay. If you can remember to do a meditation tomorrow, sometime during the day, obviously in the morning, because he was mentioning about UK time, and as I think it, they're like, what is it? Well, I'm on the Pacific time zone, so they're 10 hours ahead of us, something like that. So anyway, that's what I'm suggesting. Okay, do what you want, but I think that those of us that understand, we want to cushion it, raise the state of consciousness. Everything's going to be okay, and try and raise it up so more of those beings can begin to experience the higher vibration, the higher frequencies, the higher resonance, because we have this. We're shifting this consciousness to 5D. Okay, so anyway, that's all I got for the evening. Have a great day. Have a great night. Sweet dreams and all that good stuff. Bye now.